Welcome to Talking Jets. My name is Ryan. I'll be your pilot tonight. I am joined alongside with Green Bean, Matt O'Leary, and Gang Green, David. Guys, let's say hi to the people out there. Matt, I'll kick it to you first.
What's going on, guys? Excited to talk some Jets football with you.
David, how you doing tonight?
Well, I just had my first workout for the first time in a month. I'm feeling jacked, I'm feeling ready, and I'm ready to talk some Jets.
Green Bean, how are you doing tonight?
I feel like it's been forever. It feels like a year since I've done this. So I missed everybody and I can't wait.
All right, boys, we're going to do this the same way we have the last few weeks. We're going to start calling questions at 8:30, and we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on in the Jets sphere. I know a lot of you guys are fired up with some of my comments on the Jamal Adams thing, and maybe a little bit on the Falcons trade rumors. So we'll get into all that stuff. If you guys have not liked the video, we got 84 people in here. Let's get some of those likes up. Smash it! Hit the like button. Let's get us up to 50 likes to start this thing. All right. So let's bring up the first topic of discussion, and that's going to be the Jamal Adams controversy. Or maybe there's no controversy. Who knows? For those of you that don't know, I put out a video. I was a little frustrated. Sounded off a little bit. Here's my rough take on the Jamal Adams situation. So there was a tweet that went out that had something to do along the lines of like the Cowboys would give up a high-round draft pick if the Jets and Jamal Adams do not agree on a long-term deal. And Jamal Adams tweeted back, a GIF that was kind of like, oh, and people kind of lost their mind, myself included. And I have had it with Jamal and all the flirting with the Cowboys. It's really bugged the crap out of me. And we've seen it since like 2018. We've seen little things on Twitter, like little jabs, little jab after little jab. And then you see like the drama at the trade deadline. Now you see this, and it's just all like compounding on me right now. And my gut feeling is that Jamal, I think the Jets are going to want to sign Jamal long term. I think we're going to offer him $16 million a year, and I think what's going to wind up happening is Jamal's going to hold out. He's going to say, I'm worth more than $16 million a year. I'm worth more than just a safety. I want to be paid like a top defender. And he's going to ask for, $18, $20 million a year. And the Jets are not going to go that high, just like Douglas did not go that high on Robbie Anderson. He did not go that high on, any of our own free agents, like Jordan Jenkins and those sorts of guys. He sort of held his ground. And I think Lewis, wait, I'm late. Start over. Jeff, laugh my ass off. Thank you, Lewis, for the $1.99 donation. We started late, so you're actually right on time. But I think Jamal is going to get offered, $16 million. He's going to want $18 to $20 million, and then he's going to wind up holding out. The Jets are going to be forced to trade him, and then he's going to go to Dallas, where he's going to sign a contract that, like the one we offered, at $16 million a year. And it's going to the reason he's going to sign that one is because there's no state income tax. He'll get more money. And he's going to play the victim card, saying he never wanted to get traded in the first place. And that's kind of where I think that's going to wind up happening, or how it's going to wind up happening. Matt, what's your take on the whole Jamal Adams situation? Does this mean anything at all? Or, what's your point of view?
Yeah, I'm not really putting all that much stock into it. Jamal, I would prefer if he didn't do all the things that he does on Twitter, but the 2020 athlete, that's what they're going to do. And, I love the guy. But I think we have to admit, he has a pretty big ego. So if someone's talking about someone offering a huge package for him because they desperately want him, he wants to be wanted more than anybody else in this world. He wants everyone to know how good he is. And the fact that someone is acknowledging that and saying like, hey, this team would give up multiple high picks to get Jamal Adams. That's all he wants to hear. And he's going to reply, probably then realize, hey, maybe that was a bad idea. I'm going to delete that tweet. It's not my favorite thing that he does, but there's really a lot worse that could be going on than a couple of bad tweets on Twitter.
David, how are you feeling about the whole Twitter situation with Jamal?
Well, let me just start off by saying that I happen to be one of Jamal Adams' biggest fans. And if you want the proof, this is one of Jamal's autographs that I got, one of the 3 that I got. So in regards to what
it's going to be worth as much as your Robbie Anderson jersey when his ass gets traded to Dallas. That's what's happening.
And my Rex
sorry.
Ryan football.
No, sorry. Go, David.
Oh, man. This is crazy. But in regards to the whole Jamal thing, the reason why I consider myself Jamal Adams' biggest fan is because I love Jamal as a player. I love what he does on the field. And I was one that was heavily advocating Mike McCagnon to draft him in 2017. And the Jets ended up getting him. I was incredibly stoked that we drafted him. And I knew that this guy was going to be a legitimate cornerstone to this defense and a guy that you could build around in the future. He's everything you want in a defensive player. And in my opinion, I think this might be the Jets' best defensive player, especially defensive backs, is Darrelle Revis. However, now you're seeing Jamal obviously pulling some skeptical stunts on Twitter, on social media. To be honest, I think that would be the least of my problems in assuming that Jamal Adams does not want to be here and Jamal Adams doesn't want to get traded. So I agree with Matt to the extent where it wasn't the most appropriate thing to do. But then again, I've said this previously, I think any player really does this on social media nowadays, to where they stir the pot, they flirt with other teams, et cetera, et cetera. That's what any player, I think, does on social media. So
what other player on the Jets has done that?
What?
What other player on the Jets has done that?
Well, I'm not
Henry Anderson.
Who is it?
Henry Anderson does that all the time.
There you go.
Okay, Henry Anderson. What did Henry Anderson do?
I'm just kidding.
You're so full of it. I was going to say, I have never seen that.
I'm talking about in general. I'm not talking about on the Jets. I'm talking about in general, though, not on the Jets. But
yeah,
the only way I'll realize if Jamal Adams does not want to be a Jet is if he really starts demanding for his money and he does hold out. That will be the ultimate signal that he does not want to be a Jet, and that will be the ultimate signal to trade him for monumental compensation while you can. Being that we're in the position that we are right now, that would be the only way that I would consider trading Jamal if he starts holding out. But other than that, I'm extending him. He wants to be paid like a top safety. I think he rightfully deserves the money. He's one of the best safeties in football. And I would like for it to come from us, and I would like to build around him just as much as we should be building around Sam.
Green Bean, what about you? How are you feeling about the
I
situation?
I really like what Matt said. I mean, the whole thing. You have to look at this at what it really is. This is a young man who is very good at what he does and has people telling him how great he is and all that stuff all the time. The idea that the Jets even considered trading him was the problem. That's where he got hurt. It was he thought he was untouchable. He put himself in that sentence with the likes of Tom Brady and Aaron Donald. That's who he thought he was. The fact that Joe Douglas picked up the phone crushed him, so much so that he wouldn't talk to Joe Douglas, not because he was drawing some hard line, because he was sick to his stomach. He couldn't process what that feels like, or what was really going on. So when Jamal Adams does that, just like that most recent tweet of his, when it was the guy like he was contemplating it or whatever it was, that's him setting up the landscape that if it does happen, it's something he wanted to happen. Because Matt's right. The guy just wants to be wanted. That's it. He works his ass off. He's first there in the morning, last to leave. Greg Williams had that interview last year. He said Jamal Adams pisses him off because in his whole career, he's always the first person at the practice facility, and Jamal Adams is there when he gets there. So he's the first one in, last one out. For real, lots of guys say that, but he really does it. He works his ass off. He's competitive 100% of the time. He's an all-pro, and his team might want to trade him. So that's crushing. So he's just dealing with that. He's an immature kid on top of it. So it's like, I don't like anything he does either, but I think I understand. I don't think he wants to go to Dallas. I think it's fine either way, but he just is crushed that we actually are contemplating trading. That's what it really is.
See, you know what? I completely disagree with that. Not completely. I should say I disagree with it about 65 to 70% of the way, because I think the minute he took all the Jet stuff off his social media was the thought of, hey, maybe I'm not going to be here long term. I don't know what that's going to be, but he at least had the idea. And I think he started throwing the hissy fit after he was not traded to Dallas. I think he was upset with Joe Douglas for not trading him to Dallas, and he wound up going over the owner's head to at least pull some sort of power play. I think when you look at the interview that he had, where he said he went to Chris Johnson, he's like, "Oh, Mr. Johnson and I had a good talk, and this is see, we're really close. We're on the same page." That's me looking at Jamal Adams and thinking, hey, Joe Douglas, you better look at this. See, I'm in the owner's pocket right now. He wants me here. You better watch yourself. That's kind of how I viewed it, and maybe I'm totally wrong on it, but it felt more like a power play at Douglas than it did him just wanting to have a casual conversation.
Nah. I don't think it's all that, man. I think we have.
I'm hoping I'm reading into it too much. I really do.
I think we have to create a lot of reaches in order for that storyline to be intact. I think the guy's feelings were hurt. He did the areas that he can control are fucking pardon my French, are Twitter, Instagram, and he can run to the owner. That's what he can do. And he can make everybody think that he likes this plan. It's what he really wants. It's kind of like the reverse of sour grapes, and, I mean, maybe he's considered it and he's contemplating either way, but he was shocked that we actually wanted to trade him. That's how he heard it. Oh my God, they're considering trading me. I thought I was beyond that. So that's where I don't know. We could look at a timeline and see exactly when the meltdown happened, it corresponding to the actual events. The way I remember it was kind of a 24-hour package deal, and a lot of things just happened. Jamal's feelings are hurt. That's all it is, and he's not handling it right. That's how I see it. So I disagree with you 65%.
So I am, just to clarify my stance, I want the Jets to offer him $16 million a year, which would make him the highest paid safety. I want him to get the highest guaranteed contract in terms of safeties. I think he's going to hold out, though. I think he thinks he's worth more than that, and I think he's going to force Joe Douglas to trade him. All right, let's jump into the second possible point that guys are probably going to want to talk about and call in about, and that's the rumors that the Jets and Falcons could be talking trade up or trade down, depending on which team you're looking at. And the Falcons own the 16th pick. If you look at the trade value charts, there's two trade value charts. So you could say a third-round pick is the compensation needed. If you look at the traditional draft trade chart, it would be a third and a fourth-round pick. So it kind of depends on which chart you're looking at. But more than likely, let's just assume it's a third-round pick, not getting anything more. If it's a third-round pick and the Jets have to fall back to 16, how are we feeling about it? I'll start this off by saying that I think that 16 is a tough spot. It's a tough pick, I think. More than likely, all four of the top tackles are gone by that point. You could, in theory, see a run on wide receivers with Oakland, the 49ers, and Denver. You could see Lamb, Ruggs, and Judy all go on that stretch of 3 picks. So you may wind up having to pick from the 4th best wide receiver or the 5th best offensive lineman. And I think that's a little tough for me if we're only getting a third. Even if we get a third and a fourth-round pick, I think that's a little tough for me. Matt, how do you stand kind of on the Falcons' potential trade up or down?
So when I did the video on my channel, I said I would do it for a second-round pick. It's obviously a little bit higher, and they'd be paying a premium. I would not do it for a third or a third and a fourth, just because I think if you're trading to 16, you're taking yourself out of the equation on any of the guys that we've talked about drafting. The 4 offensive tackles are not going to be there at 16, and the chances of one of the 3 big wide receivers being there at 16 is also probably pretty slim, especially when you consider teams like Tampa Bay now, they're probably going either offensive tackle or wide receiver. Indy could take a wide receiver. We don't really know. It's a big crapshoot at that point. So I'm torn because it also depends on who's available at 11 too in order to make this decision.
Sure, yeah.
A lot of factors in this.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest factors is going to be, is the player that the Falcons want at 11, are there multiple players that the Jets do like at 11, or are all the players we do like currently not there? Because I think if we fall back to 16, there's a shot we may not even go tackle or wide receiver, and I don't particularly like that. David, how are you feeling about the possibility of a trade down?
I would have to agree. I don't think I'd like that idea. I think if I were to trade down anywhere, I think it would probably be to 15, because it looks like, according to a lot of mock drafts, it could be where Henry Ruggs would fall. So you trade down to 16. I would not do it for a third-round pick because we already have 2 third-round picks. I don't think it would be a good idea to have 3 third-round picks. You might as well just trade one of those picks and go back up into the second round, which I don't think Joe Douglas would do anyway. So you trade down to 16, where you could have the 3 big wide receivers and the 4 big offensive linemen go off the board, and then there's a chance where you might if you're going to end up reaching for a wide receiver and an offensive lineman, I would not do that. I don't think I would trade down to 16, more maybe 15, maybe even 21 if you're looking at a Justin Jefferson. That's probably where I think he'll fall. So I wouldn't do that, especially for a third-round pick.
Green Bean, how are you feeling about the whole trade situation?
I love it, and I'll tell you why. The way I look at it is this: do you like? Well, Matt nailed it. It says you have to see who's there. I wouldn't trade. Well, what's that, David?
Laviska Shenault. That's probably why I want to trade down there, isn't it?
Because Shenault. No, because well, number one, you have to see who's there, right? I would be leery of making this trade like Colts, the Darnold trade thing, like before the draft. I'd be worried about that. But I'd like to see who's there. But then you have to ask yourself, if you're able to gain that third, and you're able to use that capital to get with number 48 and a third, getting back into 28 to 32, that's right around the price that it would cost. It's right in that pocket. You might have to throw in something worth 20 points or something like that. So you can get back. So is number 11 not more valuable, or is it more valuable than 16 and 28? That's what I would ask. And that's how I look at it. I do agree that quality over quantity has to be factored in. It has to be factored in. If you get a whole bunch of scrubs, Mike McCagnon style with 9 sixth-round picks and stuff like that, that's not going to do us any good. But 2 first-round picks, when you look at maybe a Josh Jones, who's good, man. That guy, I've been really digging into him this week. The guy can play. He's a real legitimate left tackle. So if you get Josh Jones and Laviska Shenault or Denzel Mims or T. Higgins, as opposed to just Andrew Thomas, or I don't know. That to me that starts to outweigh it. But there's another. It doesn't just work with only doing the Falcons trade. You have to have the other half of that in order for it to make sense.
Sure, and I can get on board with that. If we can get back up to 28 and have 2 first-round picks because of us moving back, I would consider doing that. And I'm with you on Josh Jones. I actually do like him a lot. When I started doing my mock drafts, I had him going, I believe it was to Tampa Bay. So it would be 1 pick in front of us, which would be a little frustrating. I have Josh Jones going to Miami, actually. So beyond us. So I would like this.
Second first?
Their second first, correct.
Right.
And I would definitely like Josh Jones. And here's a stat that I was trying to read off the other day, and I didn't have it in front of me. In his 1,282 pass blocking snaps over the last 3 years, he's only allowed 18 pressures. 18 pressures. So really not too bad. Green Bean, you got a $2 donation from Jet Engine 1, probably from the Jet Nation forums. Brian Dolan.
Yeah, wait, who is that? Jet Engine. Hey, man, look at him. There he is.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Good to
look,
see you.
I'm with you. Josh Jones is someone that if we can fall back to 16 and get, especially if it's someone that that Douglas likes or compares, comparably to. Now he is close to 23. He's going to be 23 probably in, trying to think this out math-wise, probably in the next 2 months, 2-3 months. He is 6'7", so he's massive, just like Becton. 310 pounds, where Becton, I believe, I think he's even bigger. I think he's like 369. And Becton is also just under 21 years old. So Becton's kind of the guy that I'd really like as far as from like an age perspective. But if you can get Josh Jones at 16 and then at 28, maybe you can get a Denzel Mims, that is something I would 110% sign up for. Definitely. Or a Justin Jefferson or something like that. The other thing that I sort of brought up, and I want to preface this with me not believing it's going to happen, is the idea that the Falcons are coming up for a cornerback or a defensive tackle, and Mike McCagnon drafted Quinnen Williams, not Joe Douglas. And when you look at Quinnen Williams, maybe you can swap him for that 16th overall pick. He would have to eat, I think I was looking at it, was like $16 million worth of dead cap, because of you'd add an additional $9 million onto his cap hit already for the accelerated signing bonus. But would that $16 million or an additional $9 million be worth it to add the 16th overall pick? So you're basically buying that 16th pick and subtracting Leonard Williams, and then maybe you can get
Leonard Williams.
Quinnen Williams, sorry, and then you can maybe you can take your CeeDee Lamb, Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs at 11, and take your Josh Jones at 16, and then still have your second round pick and everything else to do. So that's something to kind of chew over as well. Greenbean, what do you think about that possible idea?
Well, I'll tell you what. I just watched that video that you made. I think it was this morning or last night. That all blends together for me, unfortunately.
Sure.
But I gotta say, I don't know. It's so good. But I actually don't hate that idea. And let me say, I like Quinnen Williams, and I am not down on him at all. I have an argument to defend Quinnen Williams. That said, not only is this not Joe Douglas's pick, this is the pick that Adam Gase left the room and didn't come back for the rest of the draft. This is where the rift happened. It was at Quinnen Williams. When they had trade down offers, Gase wanted them to start manipulating it and using some of that capital. And Mike McCagnon decided, I'm going to draft Quinnen Williams, another defensive tackle. Gase left. So that player is not somebody that has a lot of let's just say friends in the house. You know what I mean? So if they can get the 16th overall pick, and don't forget, Adam Gase was a wide receivers coach. He played wide receiver when he actually played football, and getting a wide receiver, and Joe Douglas is an offensive lineman. So there's like this, if they can pull off getting the two positions that they most care about, and Quinnen Williams is the guy who gets his head chopped off for it, I think it's not even a question. If that's on the table, I think they do it.
Yeah, look, I have nothing against Quinnen Williams. I really don't. I just think that our defensive line is really good right now, like even without him there. So is it worth it to subtract a strength to add it to a very bad weakness, which is the offensive line and the wide receiving core? David, how are you feeling about this potential, in theory, type of trade?
Quinnen Williams for the 16th overall pick. That's the trade?
Yep.
I don't want to give up on Quinnen Williams, but that's kind of a tough one to the extent where that would be an interesting scenario where you could get premium draft capital to where you could trade somebody that wasn't a Joe Douglas or an Adam Gase pick. This is a Mike McCagnon pick, and he struggled mightily his rookie year. So I don't know if the Falcons will be willing to take that, but if you can actually trade Quinnen Williams for that 16th overall pick, I would do that in a heartbeat.
Matt, what about you?
Goodbye. I didn't want him with the third pick. I don't think they would do it. I would be stunned if they traded. I know he wasn't this regime pick. I understand that argument, but I would be very surprised if they took on that dead money, even for the 16th pick. I know, like you explained, you're essentially buying the 16th. I personally would do it just because I wasn't really a big fan of drafting another defensive tackle and then he gets outplayed by guys like Nathan Shepard and Folo Fatukasi. But I can't see the Jets doing it. I would, but I don't think they do.
Yeah, I would lean heavily on Greg Williams for this decision if this were actually a possible situation, because I think $9 million in salary cap space is a lot of money to eat right now, especially the Jets that are like right up against the cap. Like, I think we were at like, what was it, 13 million maybe, or 16 million before they announced like 5 other signings, which includes Jordan Jenkins, which has like a $4 or $5 million cap hit this year. So I think there's a lot of cap ramifications that probably will prevent this from happening. But for the 16th overall pick, I would do it for Quinnen. If Greg Williams thinks he can turn him into his version, or like his new Aaron Donald, because he was the coach for Aaron Donald in the Rams, and if he thinks he can be that kind of player, you hold on to him and you roll with it, because it's worth it to have that type of caliber player on your roster. And that's all the comparisons we saw last offseason. Quinnen Williams is the next Aaron Donald, the next Aaron Donald, the next Aaron Donald. We heard it over and over and over and over again. So if that's really the case and that's his ceiling, even if we can get like 60% of what Aaron Donald is or 70% of what Aaron Donald is, that's still like 10 sacks. Like, that's insane. And if you can get that, I would 110% hold on to Quinnen. I think because we have such a strength there, there's an argument to be had with moving on from him.
Kind of building off that a little bit, since we drafted Quinnen Williams to be a so-called pass rusher from the interior D-line spot, how many other like interior defensive linemen can actually generate a solid pass rush? Because I can really only name 5 off the top of my head. Aaron Donald,
Geno Atkins,
Fletcher Cox, Geno Atkins. I said.
Would you put Calais Campbell up there, or is he more of a D end?
I would put.
He's huge, so it's like kind of either one.
Again, to me.
Yeah. So, like, the chances of drafting a pass rusher in the interior defensive line spot, that's kind of rare. That's why I wanted Josh Allen last year, because we play a 3-4 defensive scheme, and him next to Jordan Jenkins, I thought that would have been a fantastic duo. But, Mike McCagnon loves his defensive linemen, so that's that.
So let's talk about one more rumor that kind of popped up throughout the week, and that was that the Jets' number one wide receiver on their board right now is CeeDee Lamb. Do we believe that, or is it all a smokescreen and they're just laying out stuff that they don't want? Because we heard rumors that Green Bean, what's the quote with the pipes?
Oh yeah, speed creates pressure bursts pipes.
So that's the quote we heard from Joe Douglas at the Combine in reference to, I believe it was in reference to Ruggs, or we were connected with Ruggs at some point during the Combine. And now we're connected with Lamb. So are those two both smokescreens, and we're really going for Jerry Jeudy? I think that's something we have to consider. Matt, who do you believe the top wide receiver on our board currently is?
That's a really tough question. It is, but I would lean Jerry Jeudy. And maybe that's because I'm biased and I think he's my number one receiver, but it's really close. Like, it depends on the day. I find myself going back and forth on those two. So I wouldn't care if they took CeeDee Lamb. I would probably be happy with it depending on what their plan is at left tackle. It's going to be my answer of the night. It all depends on what the hell happens.
Left tackle is the key. That is the key for all of this to work. Like, I think if we don't go left tackle at the top of the draft, I think that means we're bringing in Jason Peters. I really do. Or we're trading for Trent Williams. I think we're still going to draft a tackle. I think we're still drafting a tackle at some point, but I don't think we're going to try and reach on it the way we might, like, sort of hope maybe, or I don't know.
That's what I mean. It's still kind of far out at 3 weeks away. It's hard to gauge really what their true plan is. I'm sticking to this. I would still be shocked if they took a wide receiver in round 1. I truly think they're going to just take the best offensive lineman available at 11.
That's kind of where I think a lot of us fall. David, how do you feel about CeeDee Lamb? Do you think he's our number one wide receiver, or do you think the Jets are blowing smoke right now?
That is a tough question. Personally, I think it is, and I think CeeDee Lamb is my number one receiver on a close margin. I love Jerry Jeudy. I think both wide receivers can provide both their unique source of continuity for Sam as a number one weapon. But I still think we're going to take offensive lineman number 11. I think Joe Douglas really prioritizes his offensive lineman. And we kind of went over our backup plans last week if we don't draft offensive linemen. Hence, trading for Trent Williams should be a plan D. Pretty much the last resort. I want nothing to do with 32-year-old injury-prone left tackle. But I would have to say it could be. I mean, CeeDee Lamb is a fantastic player. I have him over the edge of Jerry Jeudy just because I think he's more acrobatic, and I think you can definitely rely on him more for 50-50 ball. But I would be okay if they took either Lamb or Jeudy if all the offensive linemen are gone. I would celebrate the pick.
Now, I think with Trent Williams, I'm a little more on board with it than I used to be. I still am, like, wholeheartedly against it. Like, I would prefer Kelvin Beachum, Jason Peters 1. Kelvin Beachum would be my 2. Well, I guess rookie left tackle at number 11 is number 1. Kelvin Beachum would probably be the backup plan because he'd be pretty cheap. Jason Peters, a really good left tackle, is graded out really well. Trent Williams would probably be my 4th plan, but you could talk me into it if we were able to give him a contract that he wants, but it's incentive-based. So if he's playing at a Pro Bowl level, he gets paid like a Pro Bowl left tackle. Like, I don't want to trade for him and then wind up seeing that he's going to continue his decline that he did the last 3 years, or he's injury-prone like he's been the last few years. So that's kind of, I don't like Trent Williams for those reasons, but I think if you can structure a contract where it's incentive-based, I'd be okay with it. Green Bean, what about you about CeeDee Lamb, Jerry Jeudy, and Ruggs? Who do you think the Jets are really looking at wide receiver-wise on the top of their board?
Well, number one, let me say that as soon as I heard that, I thought of you the whole time. They might as well have been talking about you.
They're just like, this Jamoke on the internet's yelling at this left and right, and we're going to roll with it right now. And then we'll break his heart during the draft. I see.
I was like, what's Ryan doing right now? But so I think that the Jets wide receiver 1 is Ruggs. That's what I think. Now, he's not necessarily mine, but that's what I think. Now, Jim Nagy, the director of the Senior Bowl, came out recently and said that Ruggs is wide receiver 1. He spent time with him at the Senior Bowl, so he also thinks that. From what I'm gathering recently, that a lot of the NFL circles, Ruggs is the real deal guy. Not to take anything from Judy or Lamb for that matter, or Jefferson and so on, but I think that that what Joe Douglas was talking about that day, when very shortly thereafter he signed Perryman. We lost Robbie, immediately signed Perryman, and I think he's talking about Ruggs. And that's what I think. I don't think it's necessarily designed smokescreen. I just think they're talking. But I don't think if they had the pick and all three guys are there and they go wide receiver, it's Ruggs, in my opinion.
I like it. I think that makes a lot of sense. I'm going to open up the phone lines now so you guys can ask some of your questions. Phone number is on the board. Make sure you guys keep the questions short because I have to repeat the questions because these guys are not going to be able to hear your phone calls. So, guys, make sure you hit that like button. What are we up to? I think we were at 51 last time I looked. We're at 62 likes. Come on, hit that like button. Let's get us over 100. We got 266 people in here. There's no reason we shouldn't have 266 likes.
Yeah.
I'm demanding things today. We got a bunch of people. We are over on Facebook, too. I'm curious. I'm going to pop over there, see what we're looking at. If anyone's in from Facebook and call in, let us know. If you guys don't follow me on Facebook, definitely give me a follow. Just type in Jets Talk 24/7 and you should be able to find it on the Facebook website thing, social media app. I basically post all the same stuff that I post over here, but it looks good if, I have some of you clowns following along on the other platforms. Let's see. I'm just trying to see if this actual stream is loading. I think it is. Looks like it's loading. Yeah, so we're live. We got 24 people over on Facebook. Not too shabby.
How many?
We got 24 over on Facebook. Considering I don't advertise it over there and I just started pumping stuff out, it's not too bad. We actually had 3 people share it and about 22 comments already over there. So it's actually doing better than I would have thought. All right, let me pull up the calls. So I have a bunch of people calling in. I don't know why I'm going to jump into my settings because I have a ton of people that are actually trying to call in right now, and shit's just not going the way I want it to. Incoming calls, web. It should work. Let's see how that goes. All right, phone lines are open. Give it a call. There we go. First caller of the day.
Call from
Nate.
Nate, what's up, brother? Welcome to Talking Jets. What's on your mind?
Yo, what's good, right guy?
Chilling.
The Bills fan again. And I was just wondering, bigger drama queen next year, Stephon Diggs or Jamal Adams?
Ooh! Thank you for the call in. So he says, who is the bigger drama queen next year? Is it Jamal Adams or is it Stephon Diggs? Matt, I'll kick it to you first. Who's the bigger drama queen?
That's a tough question. I think I'm gonna go Diggs. He's like slightly worse on Twitter. They're both pretty bad, but he's more annoying in my eyes.
So I think you're probably right with Diggs because, so it's two-part. I think it could be Adams because he's not gonna have a contract at that point, but it could be Diggs because I think Diggs is gonna get frustrated that he's not getting the ball thrown to him. It's going 5 yards over his head or it's getting thrown out of bounds. Dave, what about you? Who do you think is the bigger drama queen?
Being the quarterback that Stephon Diggs has to deal with now, I'd have to say him. I mean, once he starts not catching passes, because I agree with you, Ryan, once the ball's going over his head or once he's underthrowing him too, or once he's throwing the ball out of bounds and, there's just having miscommunication, Stephon Diggs is going to want out before you know it. But you can put the case in Jamal too if he starts demanding for his money. But, yeah, I really did not want to answer that, but it's whatever.
Green Bean, what about you? Who do you think's the bigger drama queen?
Well, can I admit something? I find Twitter confusing. I don't understand it. I try it, man. But so I don't know who's the bigger drama queen over there. I know I'm more attuned to Jamal Adams' specific brand of drama. So I'd say Jamal Adams.
All right,
it's my drama.
Fair. If you guys want to vote on who you think is going to be the bigger drama queen, let us know in the chat. We'll kind of keep an eye on that as well. All right, phone lines are open back up. Remember, guys, keep it short so that way I can repeat the questions to the panel. Yeah, not too shabby. had a bunch of call-ins already. It looks like we're up to like 20 call-ins. So if you guys wind up not getting through, give us another call back, because it's either I'm on the line with someone or I'm clicked out of the page for a second, so that way it doesn't keep ringing in my ear.
I'm hoping it's Grandpa Mark that's calling in next.
I haven't seen his name pop up yet. I see a lot of names popping up, and I got to figure out why all the calls aren't coming in. I don't know if we're just getting too many calls at once, because like if you look at the timestamp, 8:41, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 calls, all marked for 8:41. Here's a call.
Call from
T-Jazz.
T-Jazz, what's up, dude? Welcome to Talking Jets. What's on your mind?
not Ryan. I was just wondering, as a round 2 wide receiver, assuming we go offensive tackle in the first round, what do you think about Michael Pittman? Thanks, Ryan.
Ooh, good stuff. Good question, T-Jazz. So he's asking, in terms of pick 48, if we go offensive tackle in the first round, what do we think of Michael Pittman at 48 instead of, I know we've talked about it a little bit in terms of the third round, but I'll give you guys a little insight kind of into my draft process and where I've sort of looked at things in the when I was building a mock draft. And I had a lot of the top receivers going. I think I had 6, maybe even 7 receivers, which I didn't really believe would happen in the first round, but I think it was Lamb, Judy, Ruggs, Mims, Chenault, Jefferson. So maybe I had 6. Maybe that's what it was. And then the next sort of layer of wide receivers in my mind that I'm thinking of, it's Ayuk, Rhaegar, or whatever the hell that name is. I'm confusing it with the Rhaegar. I'm confusing it with the Game of Thrones dragon right now. Then you got Claypool. I would put Pittman in there, and then I'm sure I'm missing someone else. But there's the Jets pick in the second round is pick 16 in the second round. It's not pick 11 in the second round. It's because the Jets finished 7-9, and since we were the worst 7-9 team, the way it happens in the second round is it kind of rotates. So the second worst team at 7-9 gets the 11th pick. Jets fall back to the 16th pick. So Matt, who are you looking at in terms of the second round wide receiver, specifically Pittman? Would you take him at 48?
I think 48's a reach. I think he's a third-round player. I have a third-round grade on him. I think you'd be reaching for him with who else would be on the board. It kind of depends on who goes in round 1, right? And then guys are going to start to potentially fall off, so it's hard to say. Rieger's better. I might go KJ Hamler, someone like him. Mims maybe could be there. It's tough to say because at the back half of the first round, there's some teams like, the Vikings just traded Stephon Diggs. Maybe they go receiver with that pick. Or you have the Saints could go wide receiver. The Packers could go receiver. There's so many different options here. So to get to the main question, though, I don't think Pittman's a round 2 player. I look at him more as a third-round player.
David, what about you? What do you think of Pittman?
I would have to agree. I like him as a player, but I see him going more into the third round. Maybe late second round to be a little bit polite. I think there are some better options out there. I agree with Matt, where Mims could possibly be there, but now people are saying that he could go late first round. There's also guys like Claypool out there too. So I would look at a guy like Claypool maybe. I would also who's the guy that Matt brought up? I can't really pronounce his name. It starts with the A.
Ayuk.
Yeah, that's another guy too. So I think Pittman would
fast.
Yeah.
So if we're looking for speed, I think Ayuk is someone that we should look at, and I also think Rieger. But I think those two guys sort of fall in line with Jamison Crowder. I don't think they necessarily fit our bill.
Yeah.
But Greenbean, what do you think about Pittman?
Well, here's what I say. Like I was saying last week, I have Pittman as a third-round wide receiver. But there is a scenario where if there's a run, there's only 6 or 7, 8 guys in front of him, truly. So if there's a run, so let's say the top 3 receivers are gone in the first top 16 picks, right? Like that kind of an area. Then you got Jefferson and T. Higgins coming off the board. Late first, you got Chenault, Mims, and then we're getting into an area. So if I'm in the second round, I want a wide receiver, and all those guys are gone, you have to know he's not making it there. He's not going to be there at 68. So then do you change your plan because of what the board is showing you and offering you? In that instance, I would take Michael Pittman in the second. It would have to be, because I like Mims and I like Chenault better than I like Michael Pittman. I don't like Ayuk and Rager better than I like Michael Pittman. Again, and it's very similar to what you said. We have those guys. Jamison Crowder is, and that's very similar. Although they bring kick return with them, duties.
Sure.
So I think if all those guys are gone and there's a major run on the big 6'1" and up wide receivers, and Michael Pittman is sitting there, what's after him when you get into Brian Edwards and Gandy Golden and Taylor and those guys? That's a step down. That's a drop off. Those guys need work. They're good. They're talented, but they need more time. Michael Pittman's coming in and starting for you. He might be starting at 2 or 3, but he's coming in and he's playing. So if he's one of the last 2 guys because of the run and the board dictated it, then I could see taking him, and I would do that.
Yeah, I tend to agree on that. Brian Dolan, thank you for the $2 donation. Wish CeeDee Lamb was 15 pounds heavier. Judy's route running wins out. I meant to get to that earlier. I didn't read it so much. So I have Pro Football Focus's draft guide up to my left here, and I'll just kind of read off the order that they believe the wide receivers are. And I have a different order than what they have, but they have Judy, Lamb. They're actually on their overall board ranked 5th and 6th. So they have them basically as a coin flip as well as us. So Jerry, Judy, CeeDee Lamb, Henry Ruggs. Then it gets down to Chenault, T. Higgins, Rager, Mims, Ayuk, Pittman, then Jefferson. I'm shocked Jefferson's as low as he is. They have him as the 44th overall player on their big board. If that's the case, Justin Jefferson, yeah. Then they have Tyler Johnson at 49, KJ Hill at 56, KJ Hamler at 57, and then Claypool's at 82, Van Jefferson 101, Gandy Golden 106. Gandy Golden is someone, if we double dip at receiver, which I hope we do, Gandy Golden is someone I want in the 3rd round. I would take him with our last 3rd round pick. If we can get a receiver in round 1 or 2 and then double dip with him, he's a 6'4", 220-pound receiver, and he is a big dude. The issue with him is that he played at Liberty, so it's really not a very good school to gauge, competition on. But I think if I'm taking a swing at someone, he's the player that I'd probably want to take a swing at. For reference, Michael Pittman is 6'4". He is a big dude. He is definitely an animal. I don't see the Jets going with a shorter wide receiver. I think outside of Judy and Lamb at 6'1", 6'2", and even Ruggs at 6 foot, I think they would go with those 3. But I think outside of that, they're going to try and go with maybe a bigger body target for Sam Darnold to hit. Just kind of my thinking on that. I'll open up the phone lines again, see if we can get another one of your calls. If you guys can't hear, or if you guys can't get through, just please keep calling. The phone lines could be tied up with a caller, or I could have clicked out of it because we're discussing something and I don't want the ringing in my ear. So make sure you keep the question short so I can reiterate it to these guys and we can start talking all your potential questions. All right, caller on the line. Steve, what's up, dude? Welcome to Talking Jets. What's on your mind?
Hey, Ryan. How you doing?
I'm hanging in there, enjoying my quarantine beer.
I see, man. Keep doing that.
Yeah.
Anyway, you may remember I asked this question to you a few months ago. I know we talked about it, but I'm just curious with the panel things. Darnold's top 3 career games. I think it's Packers, Cowboys, Redskins. Let me know what the panel thinks. Thanks.
Ooh, I like that. I tend to agree with you as well. So he's asking, he's asked it before, but he wants to talk about Sam Darnold's top 3 games. And since they didn't get to hear what the caller was saying, I'm going to not reiterate those 3 games, and I'm going to ask these guys what they think Sam Darnold's top 3 games are. You could list them in order. You could list them as just like, hey, our top 3 games. But Green Bean, I'll kick it to you first. What would you say your most impressive games with Darnold were?
Game 1 of his career, Detroit.
Okay.
I would say Denver later that year.
Okay.
That was he had 3 touchdowns, I think it was, and that was what the hell was his name? Crowley. We had that running back.
Crowell.
Crowell.
Oh my! I forget so.
Crowley.
He had 200 yards rushing. That was a great game, and I think that this year, coming out of mono and in that Dallas game, I thought it looked like we were on to something there. With the Patriot Ghost game, we didn't know it was right on the heels of the Dallas game. But yeah, I think those three are pretty good candidates. Sure.
So what were they? They were his first game against Detroit, the Denver game.
Detroit, Denver 2018, and the Dallas game, first game back from mono 2019.
David, what about you? What are your 3 games?
That's a tough one. I would have to say number 1 would be are you talking about like in order, or like can it be?
It could be. It doesn't have to necessarily be in order. Just what would your top 3 games be from Darnold?
All right, I'll just list them in order. I would say number 3 would be the Washington Redskins game from last year, where he had 4 touchdown passes.
Mm-hmm.
I think he looked really good in that game. Number 2, I think would have to be his first game, the Detroit game, when he completely bounced back from that first pick 6 that he threw. And number 1, I'm gonna say Week 16 of 2018, when he went toe-to-toe with Aaron Rodgers and put up 30 and led the Jets to put up 38 points on offense as one of the worst offenses in the league. And not a lot of 21-year-old quarterbacks could do that against one of the best of all time. So that would be my top 3 games from there.
Matt, what do you think?
I agree. My number 1 is the game against the Packers. I think going toe-to-toe with Rodgers was huge. The one that I think both you guys have left out so far is the game against the Texans, that Saturday night game. I think was one of his better performances. I put that number 2. 3 for me is the Dallas game this year. Honorable mention, his first game in Detroit, bouncing back.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say the Packers game is number 1 for me. Going toe-to-toe with Aaron Rodgers, I think was really impressive. Yeah, that would be my number 1. I would say, let's see. I'm trying to like glance over things. Off the top of my head, the Dallas game was impressive just because he had the mono. He was coming back and it was in a big spot. So I'll give the nod to that. I'm going to say the Detroit game. I think the Detroit game was really good. The caller brought up, he said it was the Packers, the Redskins game, and what was the other game he was saying? Maybe the Dallas game, I think is what he was saying. So I agree with all those games were good. I think the Texans game is probably one that I forgot that would have been a really good ad. So I would say Packers number 1. I'm going to say the Lions just because it was his first game and he had to lead that comeback after that first really terrible pick 6. And then I think I'll pick the Cowboy game as my other, or Cowboy Packers first game. Yeah, those would be my 3 off the top of my head.
All good games.
Oh, yeah.
About the Packers. Texans are tough because we lost. So you forget. You know what I mean? But that was a great game. He played well in that game.
The Colts game, too?
Yeah, the Colts spanked them.
Yeah, I think we're going to be very surprised with how Sam Darnold plays this year because I think the mono played a bigger factor than what we were able to really tell. Like I think we didn't run RPOs because they didn't want him to get hurt. Caller on the line. Who do we got?
Call from
Ben.
What's up, dude? Welcome to Talking Jets. What's on your mind? Ooh, and he hung up on me. All right. Well, since he hung up, I'm going to go to the question we just got in the chat. Scott's Talks. Thank you for the $5 donation. If the Jets trade down to 16, I would like to get T. Higgins. If CeeDee Lamb, Jerry Jeudy, and Ruggs are gone, what do you guys think? No. I will say, yeah, that's kind of where I'm falling. I don't like T. Higgins. I don't have a problem like taking him in the second if he's there, but he has self-admitted that he does not run all the routes, and that's eerily similar to Sammy Watkins. So that I think I have PTSD just from that particular player. If we're at 16 and those 3 receivers are gone, my next receiver on my board, as much as Pro Football Focus doesn't agree, I like Justin Jefferson a lot. He would be my next receiver. I think Josh Jones might get the nod at tackle though, if he's there. Matt, who would you think of at 16? It seems like you're probably not on the T. Higgins train.
No, he's a second-round player to me. If the choice is wide receiver only, we're not talking offensive lineman, then Justin Jefferson would be my next wide receiver.
David, what about you?
I actually love Justin Jefferson. If I'm trading down for any player, it would be Justin Jefferson. He's a big guy, physical guy, and a lot of people are saying he's just a slot guy. But what kind of 6 foot plus big body wide receiver just only plays in the slot?
Just so you know,
he's physical. I like him.
So just so you guys know, Justin Jefferson, 6'3", 192 pounds. So he's the same height as Robbie. He's about 5 pounds heavier than Robbie, and he's just under 21 years old. So that's who we're talking about when we talk about Justin Jefferson. Green Bean, what about
down for the wide receiver? I'm taking him.
Green Bean, what do you think about T. Higgins at 16?
I have Justin Jefferson at 6'1". Is that not accurate?
6'3" sounds taller to me than I think he is. So Pro Football Focus could definitely be off.
All right.
Because I thought the weights might have been off when I was looking at some of the stuff because they it seemed like they dragged and dropped a bunch of weights for like a certain position. But the 192 seems right. The 6'3" seems off to me.
Yeah. So let me say this. I sounds like I like T. Higgins more than you guys do. I have the same concerns, but there's lots of guys that have a 3 or 4 route specialty package, and that's all they do. That's what they do for the team. You don't have to have the full tree. And he's young. These guys, as long there's nothing on him that says he won't that he's resistant toward coaching or anything like that. He's a good kid. He's a good player. So I like him. But I wouldn't be trading back for T. Higgins. He's not. I like him, but there are guys around him that I like more. I'm on the Jefferson train. I happen to think he's arguably the top 1 or 2 receivers in the whole draft. But for me, for my money, I'm going with Laviska Shenault if I'm doing that.
I think somebody wants Laviska Shenault for Christmas this year.
Hey, Shenault is I didn't know much about him until Green Bean started bringing him up, and I started looking into him, and this guy is really good. If he can stay healthy, the dude hits people like a running back. He is a crazy athletic kind of guy. All right, we'll open up the phone lines again. Make sure to keep your questions short, just so I can reiterate it to these guys, because they will not be able to hear the call. Whew. Phone lines are open. Caller on the line.
Call from
CJ.
CJ, what's up, brother? Welcome to Talking Jets. What's on your mind?
What's up? I have this question. What do you think we're doing with the punter and kicker situation, especially punter?
Okay, all right. Good question, CJ. Good question. So he's asking, what do you think we're going to do with the punter and kicker situation? I don't know if we're actually. I don't know if I believe Douglas is actually going to draft a kicker. I think we're more likely to get an undrafted free agent and then go into competitions in training camp, or bring in a veteran kicker to compete with Mayer and who was our kicker last year? Is Ficken still here?
Ficken.
No, Ficken.
Yes, Rico Blankenship, baby. That's who I want.
He wants the hot rod.
And let him kick at MetLife Stadium. Bring in a veteran to compete with him. That's what the Jets need to do. Get him in the 5th or 6th round and bring this guy into MetLife. Let him kick the ball like the hot rod that he is.
Green Bean, what about you?
Yeah, I agree with you, though. I felt, look, we don't know enough about Joe Douglas's tendencies yet. All we really know is he's an offensive line guy, and he's seemingly relatively cheap so far. We don't know much else. And that we know he knows how to botch a kicking situation. I'll tell you that. So I'm really hoping that they bring Lachlan Edwards back. It seems like they don't have any interest in doing that. I don't understand it. It does not equate with me. My dream is that they go ahead and draft the kicker. I just don't see it happening, and I don't know who they're going to bring in. I just hope it's not Ficken.
Matt, what about you?
I'd be very upset if Joe Douglas drafted a kicker. I would not use, in any circumstance, a draft pick on a kicker or a punter.
Are you telling me you don't want to take a kicker in the 2nd round? Is that what you're trying to tell me right now?
Yeah, like Mike Nugent in 2005.
Disgusting.
Not even a 6th round pick, man. It's all good.
It was brutal. I like Lachlan Edwards. I think he's a serviceable punter. I would really bring him back. In terms of kicker, it's so weird. It changes from year to year. One year this guy could be great, and the next year he just doesn't know how to kick. So I would just pick somebody off the free agent market and see what sticks. I'm not taking a draft pick on it though.
Yeah, that's kind of where I fall. I had us mocked with Hot Rod, I think, in my last a Jet mock off season. I'll eventually have to do a 7-round Jet mock off season just so we have all the picks. But I think we do need kicker. Gostowski is the guy I really like and hope we bring in terms of competition.
He had hip surgery.
He did, but I don't care. You can bring him in for competition and not have to waste a kicker spot on him. If he can't kick, you can't kick. But the dude is good when he's on. I'm leery about taking Patriots hand-me-downs or Patriots scrap heap kind of pile because I feel like they sort of know their guys pretty well.
Any kicker would be better than that kicker we had in the Bill game.
Oh, what's his face? The
Vedvik.
Yeah, hey, look, I was all for Vedvik. I was like, oh, you know what? They gave up, a 5th-round pick or something like that to get him for the Vikings. And I was like, oh, well, I would have done that because he looks like he's all right. And then he just totally fell off the map. Just could not hit anything at all. So that, it is what it is. I'm glad we didn't trade a pick for him.
4 points on the board in that game. Oh.
Well, why wouldn't you want a kicker is one of the most important positions on the entire team.
Agreed.
Why wouldn't we use a 6th-round pick for it? I don't see it. Especially like when they go into the free, a lot of kickers don't get drafted, right? So if you know one is going to be solid, why battle with them, especially when we're the friggin' Jets trying to battle with other teams like the Patriots who have a winning culture, trying to fight for those guys when they can make their own choices. Lock one up with pick 191 or 211, I think we have, right? Isn't it 211?
I'd have to look. I don't know.
I think that's what it is. My opinion is field goal kickers, place kickers are one of the most important things. We lean on them more than any other consistent player, like other than quarterback. They're the most relied upon.
They score the most points on your team for the most part. Like that's usually like your highest point total player is your kicker. So you want someone that's going to be able to hit that 50-yarder in MetLife. That's not easy. You want someone that can go into like a Lambeau Field on a windy day, knock through a 45-yarder with maybe not ease, but you have confidence in it. I feel like we had confidence in Feely, with Folk, with Myers, and I feel like we got lucky on a run of kickers that we had for the last like decade or so. And this year really bit us in the ass. And I don't know what happened with Vedvik. I was hoping he would be all right, but I did not like what we got out of the kicker position this past year. And punter, I would have to agree with Green Bean. I would like to bring back Edwards. I think he played well. I don't think
he was the 13th ranked punter last year with kickers over 50 kicks or 50 punts. So he's 13th. So he's not top 5 or anything, but you don't have to worry about him. And do you guys remember the days? You're a little younger than me. Do you remember the days of like Joe Prokop and Louis Aguiar and all that stuff? You remember those days?
No.
I remember Tom Tupa. That's where
Tom Tupa's that's exactly it. Tom Tupa was my first punter. Caller on the line.
We're tortured.
To accept, press 1.
Welcome to Talking Jets. What is your question?
Hi.
Hi.
My question is if Adam Gase will be the future coach for the Jets for the next five years.
Ooh, okay. Cool. I cut you off a little bit by mistake. I apologize. I thought you were done with your question. He asks, will Adam Gase be the head coach of the New York Jets for the foreseeable future? He said 5 years, but is he going to be the coach moving forward? I think if we could say the next 2 or 3 years, I think is a fair judgment. I'm going to say I hope so. Not because I believe in Adam Gase, but because if I say no, then that means we're going on a third head coach with Sam Darnold. It means we're going on a third offensive system. I want to believe Gase is the answer, and I'm hoping that when we get players in that he can handle and use, I hope that Gase is the answer. Now, I sort of tend to believe that I think he might be out after this year. But, Matt, what are you thinking?
Jets go 6-10 this year. Fire Adam Gase. Eric Bieniemy's the head coach for 2021.
David, what about you?
Oh my God, my mind's telling me no, but my heart is telling me I want to believe in this guy because I don't feel comfortable going into a third offensive system. That's a terrible way to develop a young quarterback. So I want to go with my heart in this one, and I want to believe in this guy. So I want him to go into the season and prove a lot of Jets fans wrong, because as of right now, I have absolutely zero confidence in him. I mean, think about it. The guy's an absolute lunatic with his crazy eyes. When he goes like this in his press conference.
Green Bean, what about you? What are you thinking in terms of head coach?
I don't know what he means by crazy eyes. I don't know what everybody's talking about. But so
he's not good with the social media, that Green Bean character.
I don't know what is this. Somebody called him a taco or so. I don't get it. Here's the thing. Let me just play devil's advocate for a second. like you said before, Ryan, if we didn't run RPOs and we didn't do certain things because he was actually protecting Sam Darnold, and we didn't hear about it, and he didn't come out and say he's getting fucking ridiculed in the press, they're flying banners, and he's eating it, all because he knows he has to protect his quarterback. When Greg Williams left Avery Williamson in that preseason game, you think that was Gase's decision? That wasn't Gase's decision. That was Greg Williams' decision. He was running the defense. Gase has nothing to do with the defense. Greg Williams kept him in. When he got hurt, Gase walked up to the podium and said, that was me. When Greg Williams benched Jamal Adams at the end of the Cleveland game, Gase came out and said, I benched him. That wasn't him. So if those things are all true, maybe there's a lot going on, and this guy is just out front taking it. He's, all the wind against his face.
He's the punching bag.
That's building a lot of credit, number one. And number two, it's showing that he's not as dumb as we like to think he is. Like, why isn't he using Montgomery and Bell? Why isn't he doing this? Why? Maybe there are reasons. And because we do have things to look at where it's pretty clear he's eating the shit sandwich because the buck stops with him. And that people respect that, man. And so if that is what's going on, maybe this guy can stick around when he gets his players. Mike McCagnon set him up to fail.
I think so.
Let's shoot. Not that he meant to, but he sucked. So, like, picking Quinnen Williams with the 3rd overall pick, taking Nathan Shepard after you trade 3 number 2s for a franchise quarterback, that shows you're an idiot, right? Like, you don't know what you're doing. Adam Gase comes in and has to work with that offense. And then everybody's going down every 10 minutes. People are going – we had 11 guys on IR last year. So the fact that we did go 6-2, I know people like to talk about the competition, and that's true, but it's still 6-2, man. We had more when we played Buffalo that last game. They say we played their 2nd string. That was our 3rd string. So let's call it what it is. Yes, they were our starters at the time, but that was our 3rd string. We had wide receivers that we just plucked off the practice squad in that game. So if Adam Gase is able to weather all that and piece those things in, and we don't hear about any of it, why he's doing it, that shows a high level of character. And I think that he can succeed. That said, I don't like this guy and I don't trust him. But
look, okay.
Jesus Christ.
So no, hey, you know what? I'm gonna take. We're all sort of on the we don't trust Adam Gase train, and I'm gonna try to sort of bounce off what Green Bean has said. And there's a lot of things. So we had the injuries. If the injuries are because of the way Adam Gase practices in training camp and that sort of thing, that's a big problem. We don't want to have that. But if injuries overall are the reason why we didn't see what we wanted to see, I can get on board with this. Now, I do think that Sam Darnold with the mono, I think that we could have seen some RPOs. I hope we see RPOs next year because I think that Sam could run that really effectively, especially with Bell, especially with, even Herndon and some of the guys that are more like around the line of scrimmage where you can kind of lob it over like the defensive line. I think you could see a lot better play out of Sam with a healthy Sam. I could see him being the protector of the quarterback, Adam Gase, protecting Sam with the plays he's calling. I could also see, I could see why some players might like him. I can see why some players might hate him. Like we've seen kind of a mix from both sides. We've seen, Jarvis Landry say he does not like Adam Gase and he, forced himself out. And same with the running back that was there, Jay Ajayi. Like both didn't really like him. I would say that it's probably a coin flip right now as far as what Adam Gase is or is not. And I think that Joe Douglas needs to surround Adam Gase and Sam Darnold with talent to make sure we don't have the excuse of, hey, Sam or Adam Gase could have done well if it wasn't for this. Like I just want to make sure there's no excuses for Adam Gase at the end of this year. I want to be able to grade Sam Darnold accurately. I want to know that he's getting better. I want to know that Adam Gase is the right head coach for us, because if he's not, let's pull the plug now. Now, Eric Bieniemy, I think there's a reason why the last 2 years he's been the hot name on the coaching circuit, and I just don't know if I believe that he's I don't know if other owners necessarily believe in him. Like, I think a lot of people might think that Andy Reid is calling all the shots and calling all the plays, and Bieniemy is just kind of like there. And that's my concern with Bieniemy. I have no problem if he's actually calling plays and he knows Andy Reid's offense. Andy Reid's coaching tree is phenomenal, so I would absolutely go with Bieniemy if that's the decision. Let's get into some comment questions. Where was that other one in there? I saw one in here. Mark Cotta Jr., can we see the next head coach be someone like Nick Saban, Dabo Sweeney, I'm going to screw up that name, Oregano, or Redger, Lincoln Riley? I want Debo or Lincoln, not a fan of Gase. I really like Lincoln Riley. I thought for sure Lincoln Riley was going to be the head coach of the Browns. That was kind of where I thought that was going to wind up going this year. Nick Saban's not leaving Alabama. Nick Saban has it way too cushy down there. He doesn't have to deal with the personalities that come with a high-paid NFL player. Of those guys, I would want Lincoln Riley. I think he runs the most interesting offense that I think could be implemented in the NFL without too many bells and whistles. Green Bean, what do you think about some of the college coaches that were mentioned there?
I mean, look, we had one last year. We had Matt's boy, Matt Rule, and we had him, you know? I think, Saban came in and coached the Skins? Wasn't it the Redskins?
No, it was the Dolphins.
Or was it Miami?
Yeah,
Dolphins.
Gibbs,
Right,
not Gibbs. Who's the guy from
What's his name?
the Gamecocks?
Yeah, the other guy.
Yeah.
So anyway, he's already done that. And, most college coaches that come up, they get sent packing, man. It doesn't translate in the same way. Now, there are guys that are very good. I don't know. I wanted a head coach with head coaching experience from the offensive side of the ball that had a pedigree. So college wasn't necessarily that. I did like Matt Rule a whole lot. I was really feeling good about that hire. And then we turned around and hired Gase. I was not a fan of that. I was really upset by that choice. But I don't know. Lincoln Riley, I like him, but I'd be lying if I told you I knew whether or not what he's doing will translate. But I don't know, I guess. I think that it's a hard job, man, to go from college to the NFL. It doesn't always work.
David, what about you? What do you think about some of the college coaches? Would you bring in a college coach to replace Adam Gase at the end of this year?
If I were to bring in one college head coach, I would probably bring this guy back. I would probably look at Jim Harbaugh. He's probably the college coach with the most NFL experience because a lot of these college coaches, they run different systems than they would in the NFL. So, I think if you bring in a college coach, the college coach would have to kind of incorporate a more advanced system in the NFL. That's kind of a risky move. I would have to disagree with you on Lincoln Riley because I talked to Bad Dog. He's an Oklahoma Sooners fan. And one of the things I see out of Lincoln Riley and that Oklahoma team is that they can't really win in a lot of these big games. Like this year against LSU, last year, I forgot who they versed precisely. But when it comes to a lot of these big college playoff games, Oklahoma doesn't really find their way to win around those big teams. So bringing in a coach like Lincoln Riley or any college coach it would kind of be a chancy move because you would have to wonder if their college system could translate into the NFL where they would have to manipulate their system a bit.
Matt, what about you? What do you think about maybe a college coach to replace Adam Gase?
Yeah, none of the three coaches that he mentioned in his comment are leaving their programs. They're all in, phenomenal situations in Oklahoma, LSU, and Alabama. So I don't see any of those guys leaving. Honestly, I wouldn't want any part of Harbaugh at this point. When he went back to Michigan, I don't think he really did a great job there. I think that program's really underachieved for all the high talent that they've gotten in there. And Shea Patterson really regressed this year too. I'm not opposed to the idea of going to the college route. Obviously, I was beating the drum for Matt Rule the last couple of years, but I don't think any of the guys that he mentioned are options.
Yeah, I'm kind of in that same boat. I've always liked Harbaugh. I thought he was a good NFL head coach. I thought he rubbed people the wrong way, and you're only going to get like 3 years out of him before he pisses everyone off. Kind of like Greg Williams. I think Greg Williams is a phenomenal coach, but I think we might only have him at most for 3 years, and that's just because I think he's going to rub enough people the wrong way that they're just going to eventually part ways with him. If you look at his tenure, he really doesn't stay in places too long. Yeah, college coaches, I don't have a problem going that way. I think I'd almost err on the side of Sam Darnold and see what sort of offense he likes running and sort of base my head coaching decision not entirely on that, but what he feels comfortable with. I would try to make that transition as easy as possible. Mark also asks, are the Jets going to be that team that gets hacked during the draft because it's online? Rumor says GMs are worried about that. Man, if I had the hacking power and I could hack into the Pentagon, CeeDee Lamb's going to be a New York Jet. No, are the Jets going to get hacked? Do you think? Let's change the question a little bit. Do you think any NFL team could potentially get hacked during the draft? And what happens if that's the case? Because you're not turning in a draft card. Like maybe they need to have a video chat with like the commissioner where they hold up a card that says the guy's name to prove that you're not getting hacked. That's like when I moved up to Binghamton when I went to college, I had we were picking rooms at our house. And there were 6 rooms, and they were all different sizes, so we were trying to figure out which room each person was going to get. And what we did was we picked cards out on a table, and you had, okay, I would not pick a card. I would let the other 3 guys on the video chat, like, okay, you pick a card. Which one do you want? Oh, I want the left card. This one? Yeah, okay. Oh, it's a king. All right, well, what card do you want? And we sort of like did it that way, so you sort of idiot-proof it. Do you think that there's any real fear in the GMs that they could be hacked? Matt, I'll kick it to you first.
I would think that Bill Belichick would figure out a way how to hack these.
We damn well, we know he would.
Yes, he will.
Jets pick a kicker at 11 overall. Motherfucker.
I would flip.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
I understand the concern, though. I mean, we see all these teams who are doing stuff on Zoom getting hacked with, the comment section getting flooded. Like the New York Rangers just did something last week, and there was a bunch of, hate speech in the comments and all these awful things. But it's definitely something that's new. They haven't done anything like this before. And when they use technology like this, there's always running the risk of getting hacked. I just don't see what else they could possibly do. There's no really alternative here.
David, what about you?
Honestly, that's a tough one. I mean, hacking, I don't even know why hacking's even, like, I get because being that you're online and, like, there's a good chance
if you could control what a team does based on, like, if I had the power from here to be able to do that, you're damn well right. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna make the Patriots pick a kicker. That's what's gonna happen.
Yeah, I would have to agree with Matt. I think Bill Belichick would be the only freaking person that would actually hack any sort of thing whatsoever.
Green Bean, what about you?
Why don't they just pick up the phone and call him?
That's probably the easiest way. It's like, hey, let's make sure this is what we want to actually do.
I think, they're going to have to communicate via Zoom, so there's that. But I don't know about the actual pick.
I think it's going to be a phone call. You're probably right.
That's what I see. But, I think somebody's going to get it. This is too juicy for these hacker kids, man, not to want to do it.
See what we need to have happen.
Everybody talking about it.
We need to insert whoever your top offensive tackle is, and let's make sure we can Photoshop. I'm pretty good with Photoshop and After Effects and all that stuff. Let's get them smoking a bong. And then they fall down to 11. We get our new Laramie Tunsil. That's what we want to get. Jersey Joe, thank you so much for the $5 donation. If Gase gets fired midway through the season, who would Greg Williams promote to offensive coordinator? I think it would just stay the same. I think it would be, what's his fucking name? Cooter, yeah, Jim Bob. I had a towel that I was giving out for a competition for you guys that have not been fans of the channel that long. I had a towel that I was giving out, and it was the Adam Gase, like, looking crazy, and it was Jim Bob Cooter like this, and it said, "Gaze at my Cooter." So I would say Cooter would probably be the offensive coordinator. Greg Williams would be the head coach. I think. Are we all on the same page with that?
Yes.
Or does anyone have something different?
Dow Loggins and Adam Gase into the sun, and Jim Bob Cooter.
Dowell Loggins does not need to be here.
Yeah, actually, I was going to say the moon, but the sun could work too.
All right, let's jump into some phone call questions again. If you guys do want to override, actually, we just got another super chat in there. If you guys want to override the phone call system, you can send in a super chat and we'll read your question. All right, thank you, Pat Vito, for the $10 donation. If we go offensive tackle at 11, what wide receiver do you see falling to 48? I think that guys like Jefferson, Mims, Chenault, Higgins will be gone by 48. That's why I'd rather go Lamb or Judy at 11 and take a chance at offensive tackle at 48. Ooh. So it's interesting to see because that's sort of where I fall on this argument. I don't see a receiver that we could bring in free agency that would make me feel all warm and fuzzy, but I could feel warm and fuzzy about Jason Peters at left tackle for a year. While you try to develop someone like a Nang from TCU. Let me see if I could find his statistics on here because he was someone that I had projected to us, I believe, in like the 3rd or 4th round, but he's definitely higher than that at this point. Maybe he's not. So Pro Football Focus, again, I don't necessarily love everything that Pro Football Focus has on here. I know I use them in a lot of my stuff, but it's sort of a nice, easy sort of grading system. They have him listed at 6'7", 328 pounds. That feels wrong though. So he had, let's see, positives. Height and length are ideal. Only 3 penalties in 1,982 career snaps. Back-to-back excellent passing grades in years. His negatives would be his feet are all over the place, hunched over at the waist, played in a very college, in quotes, TCU offense. His athleticism is borderline for the NFL. Their round projection has him in the 3rd round. So I was high on him before, so I would be okay with that sort of pick. I know Green Bean was, I think you were pretty high on Ezra Cleveland.
Yeah.
I tend to lean wide receiver at 11 because I don't see how we could improve the wide receiver position at 48 with someone that I think is a lock to be a starter. Like I think Pittman and I think Claypool and Chenault, like there's good players that could be at 48, and I still want the Jets, regardless of if we take a receiver at 1 or 48, to double dip in the top 4 rounds probably at wide receiver. But Matt, where do you kind of stand on this?
Yeah, so if we're talking about receivers who I think could be there in the 2nd round the Jets are taking, it's tough because a lot of these guys, like we talked earlier about KJ Hamler, he's small. He's only 5'9". Rieger is 5'11". Maybe Brian Edwards is tall at 6'3". I feel like that at 48 might be a little bit of a reach. I'm really hoping that somebody like Chenault, Higgins, or Jefferson is falling into that 48 range.
What about you, David?
They will. Sorry.
This is kind of why I'm actually on the wide receivers train a little bit more, because I would have to agree with you, Ryan. You look at a lot of these receivers, especially in the 3rd round, there's a good chance if you get a wide receiver in the 3rd round and you take an offensive tackle at an 11, there's a possible shot that you could probably go into the season with Rashad Perriman as your number 1 wide receiver. That's not exactly ideal. So I still want an offensive tackle, but now I'm leaning more towards that wide receiver, being that I think Lamb, Judy, and even Ruggs, I think are probably the only sort of receivers that have the best chance to produce immediate number 1 caliber. And if we do get a wide receiver, I would actually end up bringing in a guy like Jason Peters in for a year, and before you get your continuity at tackle. Like, that's just my thing. But I'm not, guys, listen, I'm not trying to rule out offensive linemen. Before you guys start coming at me, I'm not ruling it out. Before you guys start coming at me, I'm not ruling out offensive linemen. I'm just now more on board, and I can make a bigger argument to get a wide receiver at number 11. Trust me on that. Green
Bean, what about you?
Well, listen, I just finished my my post free agency Jets mock 2.0 last night. Right, and it's getting edited right now, and it'll be out tomorrow or the next day. And interestingly, I'll tip my hand a little bit. I chose a wide receiver in the 1st just so I could see how the board laid out following that, as opposed to getting my tackle done. It was the hardest thing I've ever done as far as drafts. I could not believe how much more difficult it was to find a legitimate starting caliber left tackle later than it was in the initial time to find starting caliber wide receivers. I actually disagree with what David just said. As far as the wide receiver number 1s, I believe Denzel Mims, Justin Jefferson, Laviska Shenault, if he could stay healthy. I think Pittman has that potential. I think even some guys in the very similar to like an Antonio Brown, flyer kind of guy. Like, that guy wasn't supposed to be a number 1 receiver, but he bet your ass he is. So I think guys like Brian Edwards, like Andy Golden, like Donovan Peoples-Jones. Donovan Peoples-Jones is one of the biggest indicators that Jim Harbaugh is a failure at Michigan. Everybody up there is saying that guy was a 5-star recruit, and he was supposed to light it up. Jim Harbaugh does not utilize him properly. He catches 35 balls a year or whatever it is. That guy has absolutely has the potential to be a number 1 wide receiver. Now, are they going to be? Of course, we don't know. But there are more of these wide receivers that are capable of it than there are offensive tackles capable of being that franchise left tackle out of the box. I mean, I ended up having to take – I don't want to tell you guys.
Don't give it away. Don't give it away.
Yeah, I took a guy that I projected to be a 3rd-round pick. He was my 48. I had to do it. It was totally me, but I had to get it done. And my draft was out of whack because I took a receiver first. Hard, man.
Yeah, so where I stand on this is I want left tackle at the top of the draft because I do believe, like Green Bean said, it's very hard to try and find that person. Now, if those top 4 are gone or top 3 are gone and Douglas may not like option 4, you try to trade back maybe, because if you look at the bust rate for wide receivers, the 1st round and 2nd round bust rate is almost identical. So whereas like the left tackle, you start to see a little bit more of a dip off. You see the offensive line bust rate being pretty steady through the 1st and 2nd round, but that's including centers and guards and things that would normally go in the 2nd round. So left tackle, I think, has got to be number 1 as far as options go. I would be okay with wide receiver at 11 with CeeDee Lamb, Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs, whatever you want, and adding Jason Peters. I'm not going to be confident in whoever we're going to take at tackle at 48 or, in the 3rd round. That's kind of where I fall on that. Guys, thank you so much for the $1 donation. Alex Inzerilli, thank you so much. I don't see a question on there, so if you have a question and you guys see it, just shout it out. But thank you so much for the $1 donation. Let's open up the phone lines again so we can get some more calls. Guys, if you want your question heard and you can't get through on the phone calls, if you do send a super chat, that does override anything that is on the phone lines. But phone lines are open if you guys want to call in. And let's take a look. Let's see how many likes are we up to right now. We gotta up that up. We're at 152. Let's get that up to 200, guys. We're at 300 people in the chat right now. Let's get that up over 200. I know you guys can do that for me. And let's
Somebody downvoted us.
Someone downvoted. It's that Patriot fan. It's that damn Patriot fan. I always get someone always throws in 1 or 2 downvotes for me, and I don't know if it's like someone that's just super bitter at everything I've ever said, if it's an opposing fan or what. I almost would like to see just like, I'm sure there's probably some program that can show you what those, like who dislikes it, but I'm like, I'm not gonna do that. I don't give a shit. It's like, it's not worth my time to care about that.
Yeah, right.
If you're so upset that you have to downvote something, I must have ticked you off. I don't know. I don't really downvote anything at all unless it's like like a how-to tutorial on something and it's like a stupid long intro and then it's not what I wanted to do and I'm like, downvote.
You'll probably have fallen asleep by the time that intro's over.
You know what I'm really upset with is the. So other people are saying the phone calls are not working. I got another phone call right here. I think it's just because we're getting so many people. Like, I have at least 20 calls at 9:29, so I think it's just that we're getting a lot of people at the same time calling.
Lou.
What's up, brother? Welcome to Talking Jets. What's on your mind?
Just a quick question. I wanted to get your thoughts on it's really just about the Patriots. I'm a Jet fan, but I'm thinking here that if the Dolphins trade up and they wind up releasing what's his name on the quarterback for the
Josh Rosen.
Josh Rosen. I think the Patriots might scoop him up.
Yeah, look, I think you're right. Is that your question, or did you want to add something?
That's my question.
All right, good stuff. So the caller was saying that he thinks if the Dolphins do trade up and they wind up taking to whoever the quarterback of the future is going to be, do they release Josh Rosen? And if they do the Patriots wind up scooping him up? And then you wind up having Rosen, Allen, and Darnold all from the same class in the AFC East. Matt, I'll throw it to you first. What do you think about that potential situation?
I would hate that because I like Josh Rosen coming out. I had Darnold 1, Baker 2, Rosen right behind him.
Same.
And I think Rosen's good. He's just put in 2 awful situations. He was on a terrible, terrible Cardinals team. They traded him away after not really giving him a chance. And then he was with the tanking Dolphins, and now they won Tua Tagovailoa. So I think if he went to a team like the Patriots, he'd have a lot of success.
David, what about you?
Yeah, I would not like that either. I actually thought Rosen was a quarterback with a ton of potential. I was a little worried about his injury history, but he's a pretty sufficient passer in the pocket. And being that that's what the Patriot system has been with Brady for years. Brady's been a pure pocket passer. And you put a pocket pass like Rosen behind that Patriots offensive line, yeah, I would hate that.
What about you, Green Bean?
I'm sorry. What was it again? I heard it. I just forgot.
No. It's all right. So we got, if the Dolphins trade up to get a quarterback, or they take their quarterback in the future, would they release Josh Rosen, and would Josh Rosen going to the Patriots scare you?
No, I think Josh Rosen sucks. That's what I think. I think he's an accurate passer. I think he's not a leader of men. The best thing that could be happening to him is that he's being humbled by life right now, because people don't want to play for him. That's the problem. Plus, he's not mobile and all those kind. He's got a lot of cards stacked against him. I think he's got an uphill climb. Him going to the Patriots and battling it out with Stidham, I would actually be interested in seeing that battle. I do feel bad for him, but I'm not the biggest Josh Rosen fan, and I wasn't him coming out. I was praying that the Jets didn't get suckered into biting on him. Like if Darnold went first, I thought that we were going to grab Rosen, and I would have been very upset.
Yeah, I'm with Matt on this as far as I was Baker 1, I was Darnold 1, sorry. I was Darnold 1, Baker 2, Rosen 3, and then I had actually Lamar, and then I had Allen. I was not a big fan of Allen. Since then, I would say Darnold 1, probably Baker 2. Well, I mean, I guess, okay, Lamar Jackson 1. But, like, then you get into Darnold and the whole Allen and everything argument. Right now, I don't believe Rosen is an NFL quarterback. I think he's not mobile, like Green Bean said. I think that is stacked very big against him. Like, I know in New England, they're not really rolling their quarterbacks out to the side. And I think if there was a position for him to do well, I think New England is probably that spot. I think you could definitely see them bring him in. I think it would make sense for them to bring him in. Now, I don't think the Dolphins are going to do that. I think they would sooner release Ryan Fitzpatrick and let Rosen and Tua Tagovailoa compete against each other, try to build up Rosen's trade value, and possibly recoup some of the picks they're going to need to give up to get to number 3. I think they're going to trade up to number 3. I think they give up number 26 overall to get up there. And then I think you could see them hold on to Rosen, maybe try him out in preseason, similar to how we did with Teddy Bridgewater. Like, Teddy Bridgewater, we knew was not going to be the Jets quarterback in the future. We knew we weren't going to hold on to him. He was trade bait the entire time. And I think you're going to see something similar with Josh Rosen. King Blaze, thank you for the $5 donation. What about trading Jamal for Yannick Ngakoue? Maybe a pick or picks involved to make it happen. So right now, the Jaguars own the 9th pick, the 20th pick. The Jets own the 11th pick. And they're looking to get rid of Ngakoue. The Jets, there's rumors with the whole Jamal thing that could potentially be going on. I would do it. I know there's a lot of people that probably would not. I think Yannick Ngakoue, who I believe we just went over last week, was 25. He just turned 25. Is that what it was? So he's 25 years old. I think he's going to be an elite pass rusher in this league, and that's someone I would give up, a first and a third for, which is what you're sort of thinking that Jamal might be. I don't think there's now the issue with it is I guess Jamal has 3 years before you're paying him really high safety money, because even the franchise tag is only going to give him the average of the top 5. Yannick Ngakoue, you're probably going to have to pay him $20 million a year. I'm fine with paying him $20 million a year. I'm way more on board with that than I am on Jadeveon Clowney. I would prefer, and actually I brought this up in my stream yesterday, and I'll let you guys in on a little tidbit on it too. So I know the Detroit Lions really want Isaiah Simmons. I think they want to trade back, but I think they want Isaiah Simmons. Actually, we'll get into this. I'll bring this up after this. Let's talk about the Ngakoue thing first. So, Matt, what do you think about Ngakoue and Jamal Adams potentially trading them?
Am I guaranteed that Ngakoue is going to sign with the Jets?
I would say yeah. I think you'd have to. You don't trade Jamal away without working out an extension with Ndakwe. I think that's probably the predetermined.
Yeah, if you're signing him to an extension, absolutely. Edge rusher is much more important than safety. I know Jamal Adams is an outlier at the safety position. He does so much more than your average safety, but Ngakoue, like you said, 25 years old, one of the premier pass rushers in this league. I think he's just getting to his prime now where he's going to be, the double-digit sack guy every single year. Someone who could complement a Jordan Jenkins, edge setter on the other side. I think it makes a lot of sense for the Jets to get a player like him. I would do it. I really would.
David, what about you?
Is this Jamal for Ngakoue straight up?
Yeah. Well, let's call it straight up, just so it's the most basic of. So I would not give up more picks to get Ndakwe if I'm trading with Jamal Adams. That's not something I'm in the business of doing. But straight up, I would do it.
Like an edge rusher, how isn't Ngakoue aren't Ngakoue and Jamal almost around the same age? I think
they're close.
Yeah, they're close.
Jamal's 24, I think, and Ndakwe just turned 25, so they're close enough.
They're close around the same age.
Yeah.
And Ngakoue plays a much more premium position. If I'm giving anybody $20 million a year, I would much rather do it to an edge rusher than a safety. So so straight up, I would do it. I just don't think Jacksonville would actually trade him for a safety. I don't think that's realistic.
Yeah, that's sort of my issue as well with this sort of argument is I think they didn't want to pay Jalen Ramsey the kind of money that Jalen Ramsey was going to get, and I don't believe they're going to want to pay Jamal Adams the kind of money Jamal Adams is going to want to get. But that said, I would trade him for Ndakwe. Green Bean, what about you?
Well, they'd be saving approximately $4 million a year if you just look at this straight up, right? Ngakoue is he's gonna get in the area of $20 million a year. Jamal Adams, market value 16, 17 million. So they're saving, $3 or $4 million just on that flip. Mm-hmm. I don't think they would do it because they realize that edge rusher is more of a premier position as well. But I agree with Matt. I mean, Jamal Adams is an outlier to the safety position. People like to knock him on his coverage. His coverage is great, man. He was seventh in coverage this year, in 2019. He does what we ask him to do. So I don't think it's as easy as saying safety versus edge rusher like it would in normal circumstances. I would think about it. I don't know. That's a tough question for me, man. But I probably would end up pulling the trigger if it was just straight up and it was guaranteed to work out contractually. I would probably do it.
All right. So now, before we get into the next question, I want to talk about a situation that I'm going to make a video about. So you guys better not make a video about it first. But here's the idea here.
No guarantees.
So let's say Detroit is sitting at 3, and Burrow and Chase Young are off the board. The Dolphins call up. I believe they're going to trade up to number 3. They're going to take Tua Tagovailoa at number 3. Now Detroit's sitting at 5. Isaiah Simmons goes to the Giants at number 4. Number 5 comes around, and Detroit's like, man, we really wanted Isaiah Simmons. We just got Trufant as our cornerback. We don't necessarily want to take Okudah. I think we do wind up taking him. Is there a situation where Joe Douglas is calling up Detroit and saying, hey, we'll send you Jamal Adams for number 5 straight up, and now Joe Douglas has his pick of any offensive lineman that he wants? Matt, what do you think about that?
I think that I don't buy it. I think they would just take Okudah.
You think so? Okay. David, what about you?
Yeah, I don't think we're in a position to be buying and trading up for picks. I don't think we're going to do that.
If you're telling me I could give up Jamal Adams and get the left tackle of the future, I'm probably going to do it. Green Bean, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, what do we – number one, yes. If it's the number 5, I don't know, man. I don't know. But, yeah.
It's tough. That's a tough question.
You know what? In my head, I'm hearing 5 and 11, but it's not 5 and 11. We already have 11.
That's right.
Well, we already have – you know what I mean? So, that's what – I had to do that equation in my head, and it takes me a long time. Arithmetic's an issue.
So would you take Jamal? Would you take 1st and 3rd from Dallas, or would you take number 5 from Detroit? I'm taking 5 from Detroit over 17 and third round pick. I see. I'm getting everyone's gears spinning because it's way different. It's way different, and no one's talked about this. I don't think it's necessarily feasible, but I think that's something. And anyone that wants Isaiah Simmons is in the market for Jamal Adams. That's my opinion.
Yeah, maybe. But here,
I don't buy it.
like Matt said it too. It's like, why, Jamal Adams is the guy potentially disgruntled for contract issue.
Sure.
So if you're a team with a whole boatload of cap space, maybe it's not an issue. Okay, maybe it's not an issue. But I wonder if Matt Patricia wants to do something like that when he can grab Okuda, yeah, I don't know, man. That's a tough one.
So what if you think Matthew Stafford is probably towards the end of his ropes? He may not be playing too much longer. He's had a little bit of injuries the last few years. Now his contract is up. Jamal Adams, you wait on his contract, and then all of a sudden you have a ton of cap space because you're not paying a franchise quarterback. It's just something to think about, something to chew over. Yeah. I don't know if there's no links between Detroit and the Jets. There's no sort of thing that would insinuate that Jamal Adams would want to sign a contract with them, but it's something I was kind of I was pondering it.
That's where I sent them in my recent video.
Oh yeah, I know. Well, you said it. I was like, no friggin' way. I was like, I literally brought it up like earlier that day, and I was like, son of a bitch. I wound up commenting on a Lions channel, and I might wind up doing some sort of collab with them in some capacity. I don't know what I would wind up doing, but something like that. Ray Padilla, thank you so much for the $2.99 donation. CD and Cleveland would be ideal. I'm with Ryan. Ray is my new favorite commenter in the chat.
There you go, Ray.
That is a Ray pick. Thank you so much. I don't think I've missed any other super chats. So let's open up the phone lines. Again, let's get some calls. We got about 18 minutes before we are off the air. So if you want to get your questions read or talked about, you can call in or you can super chat. Super chat overrides the calls. Yeah, look, phone call.
Call from
Mike, NY Sports.
Mike, NY Sports. What's up, dude? How you doing tonight?
What's going on, Ryan? I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm hanging in there. Guys, if you've not checked out NY Sports MC, check out his channel. Talks about Jets and whatnot. Good channel over there. What's on your mind tonight?
Thanks. Appreciate it. Actually, a video that I came out with this morning, I wanted to see what your guys' take was on it. Last year, the defense, yards per game, we were 7th in the yards allowed. We were 7th in the league. DVOA, we were 10th. So pretty much right around a 10th ranked defense last year without all-pro linebacker C.J. Mosley. We only had him for 2 quarters. Addition by subtraction, getting rid of Tremaine Johnson and Roberts, bringing in Desir. Just kind of wanted to see what your guys' expectation is for this defense this upcoming year.
Oh, great question. So Mike over at NY Sports MC, he was talking about our expectations for the defense last year. Last year we finished around top 10. He was saying, I think DVOA we were around 7th, or maybe yards allowed was 7th, and then we finished 10th in DVOA, whatever it was.
We were ranked 7th last year, yeah.
Yeah, so what do you think our defense is going to look like? Is it addition by subtraction with losing Tremaine Johnson and Darryl Roberts? We bring in Desir. You bring back C.J. Mosley, who's healthy, and then winds up playing alongside maybe Avery Williamson. I don't know. I still think Avery's probably going to get cut or traded at some point. I think we kind of need the cap space because you're going to need at least $7 or $8 million to sign your draft class. And then, what does this defense look like? David, I'll throw it to you first. What do you think the defense looks like? What should our expectations be based on what we got last year and what we've added so far this year?
I think the defense is going to be put to a pretty big test this year. I mean, you look at a lot of these offenses we're playing this year. Seattle, San Francisco, Kansas City, Arizona. They just upgraded immensely with DeAndre Hopkins. Even the Raiders, they got a pretty underrated offense too. Like there's some tough offenses that we're going to be playing this year. So that's why you want all the depth that you can have on your defense as possible. So that way, like, you don't have a bunch of unproven guys, like a bunch of 5th, 6th round picks, undrafted free agents against a top tier offense that could possibly get lit up. Because you look at the defense last year, they got lit up by some of the worst offenses in the league, even with these guys like Cincinnati and Miami in the first time we played Miami. So getting C.J. Mosley back is going to be huge. I really hope they keep Avery Williamson just because I think he's a better player than Hewitt and Burgess, although I think they can be rotational guys. You're going to have to hope to God that Quinnen Williams can actually pan out this year as your interior pass rusher if the Jets really don't go with another edge rusher next to Jenkins. So I think the defense is going to be tested this year a lot with a lot of these offenses.
Green Bean, what about you?
Well, number one, I think that you just got to make some decisions, right? Like this team is really in shambles as far as foundational pieces. The reason we all talk about Sam and Jamal Adams is because that's pretty much all we have. You know what I mean? Like that's who we have. Now you have to make a choice. If you try to feather it all out and spread, you end up having two subpar units that doesn't get you anywhere. So I really do believe protecting Sam and giving him the ability to succeed is the priority. So that being said, while look, they brought in Desir, they'll do some things to help the defense, but it's not going to be what we do for the offense. That's how I see it. And it's just going to have to be up to Greg Williams to figure out ways to win with the guys that he has in large part. I do think we're going to see a defensive guy or two, a cornerback and an edge from the draft. I do think that. But I don't think it's going to be nearly the allocation of resources that's going to the offense. And that's the way it should be, man. It's been lopsided for far too long toward the defense. So I think that's what's going to end up happening. I think that's the way we end up going with this.
Matt, what about you? What do you think about the defense?
So I think on paper it's a much better unit than what it was last year, especially when Jermaine Johnson, Dow Roberts went out, and you're playing, no-name guys at corner like Blesson Austin, who's a 6th-round pick. He did much better than I thought he would, but him and Arthur Mollett were essentially, with lack of a better term, two nobodies who came in and did a fine job. I think they're going to come in around the same to slightly worse, maybe by just a little bit in terms statistically, just because the teams you have to go against. The entire NFC West, those are all great coaches and great offenses in that division. You have to go against the Kansas City Chiefs this year. Buffalo is better. Miami is better. It's a very tough schedule for the Jets this year, and I think that's going to play a factor. Yes, on paper, they are definitely a more complete defense, but when you look at their schedule, I think they probably come in somewhere between 10 and 15.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. I think we're probably going to fall around the 15 rank range purely because of the schedule we're playing. NFC West, AFC West is going to be a harder division. Now, or a harder schedule, rather. I agree with Greenbean in that the priority has been defense way too long, and you got to go offense. I do think we're going edge and corner at some point in this draft. I would say you could see that in the top 3 rounds. With 4 picks, I think you're going to see tackle, wide receiver, edge, cornerback, and then receiver again in the 4th round, sort of pending how the board falls. But I think those are probably the top 4 positions in our top 5 picks. As far as the defense goes, I think the cornerbacks are going to be better purely because Jermaine Johnson was hot garbage. I think the middle linebacker position is going to be better purely by getting C.J. Mosley back. And I think, I hope we keep Avery Williamson. I really like Avery a lot. I think he's valuable as a trade chip. And I don't think Douglas is going to necessarily want to pay 2 top inside linebackers, top 15 money. It just feels like a weird allocation of resources. But if you hold on to him, then at least you could possibly recoup a compensation pick in the future if he winds up walking away. So that's the benefit of possibly holding on to him if you can't use him to trade up in some capacity. So I would say the defense is going to be maybe, I don't want to say better, but I want to see the defense is going to play well, but I think we're going to have a worse overall ranking, if that makes sense. Sort of how I see like the Jets overall record going. Like I see the Jets overall record probably being worse or about the same as last year, but I think we're going to see an overall better offensive unit, and I think we're going to see progression out of Sam and Adam Gase as a whole. New caller on the line. What do we got?
Tom.
What's up, dude? Welcome to Talking Jets. What's on your mind?
Hey, Ryan. I was just wondering, what do you think about Joe Douglas doing all these cheap signings and short-term deals?
Ooh, I like it. Okay, so caller is asking about what we think about Joe Douglas signing all these 1-year contracts. I'll start this one off. I really like the 1-year contracts. I think a lot of it had to do. Well, he said anyway in his press conference. What was it, 4 days ago? That the 1-year contracts were signed due to the market dictating it that way. And that could be a few different things. It could be that the players were not in demand and they felt they deserved more money and we gave them a 1-year contract so they could prove it. There's also maybe they only want 1-year deals because the new TV contract is up at the end of the season. And the projection right now from experts is saying that the amount of money that the players are going to get, because they just signed the new CBA is guaranteeing the players more money from the TV sharing deal. When that new TV contract is signed, it's supposed to go through the roof, and I think players are going to get a lot more contracts. That's kind of the argument if you want to sign Jamal now and try to ink him now. Maybe you get him on a cheaper deal than what you're going to wind up having to pay him after next year. So as far as the 1-year contracts go, I like it. It gives you the ability to test the players, see if they fit in Adam Gase's system. It gives you the ability, if you do not want these players, if you fire Adam Gase at the end of the year, to bring in new players on 1-year contracts to test it with their new coach. It gives you the ability to potentially get compensation picks. Maybe if Brashad Perriman goes off and we've already added 2 wide receivers in the draft, maybe we opt not to try and sign Perriman to a bigger contract. Matt, I'll kick it to you first. What do you think about the 1-year contracts?
I think the deal with all the 1-year contracts is, and I think Green Bean said it either last week or the week before, where Joe Douglas is setting it up so that there's stopgaps so that he could build through the draft. He doesn't want the team to completely bottom out. So you have guys on these 1-year deals who can hold down the fort, so to speak, in the short term as he goes to work, which his bread and butter is the draft. That's what we've been told all along now. So if he really wants to build depth, that's how he has to do it. But you also need guys who can play now. So he has a mix of both. And if somebody sticks like Poole, I expect to be just as good, then maybe you look to re-sign him. But, you know, maybe you're not looking to bring back Fant if he's not that great. You get out of that contract pretty early. And I think it just leaves some flexibility, which I think is a good thing.
David, what about you?
It's kind of an interesting approach into a sense where Joe Douglas is trying to be patient, because I've said this previously, where Joe Douglas came into a situation where he was dealing with a lot of Mike McCagnon guys. And Joe Douglas is kind of unknown to where Joe Douglas has an unknown thought process to where whether or not he can actually move forward with some of these Mike McCagnon guys long term. I mean, he already released Tremaine Johnson, he released Darryl Roberts, and he traded away Leonard Williams. Obviously, those are not Joe Douglas's guys going forward. So bringing these guys on these 1-year deals, knowing the situation Douglas came into last year, where Mike McCagnon had $100 million, he had a draft, and then he got fired in May. Joe Douglas is bringing in these guys on 1-year deals to where now there's a possibility where Joe Douglas might build his true regime next year, where guys like Pierre Desir and Jordan Jenkins and all these other guys they brought on 1-year deals, they're basically like a prove-it-year kind of thing, to where if I'm Joe Douglas, I'm like, okay, I'm bringing you guys in, I'm giving you X amount of money, come prove it that you could fit into my regime, and I'll keep you here long term. So I think this is a sense to where Joe Douglas might just try to get rid of a lot of these bad contracts, and there could be a sense to where he could really try to build his regime going forward.
What about you, Green Bean?
Well, yeah, I think I agree. I agree with literally everything that was said. There's a piece to that involved. I think Joe Douglas is proving himself to be pretty intelligent. And when he's talking with these players, it's not a difficult sell. Like when we saw Poole for $5 million, and then Jordan Jenkins, and then Burgess and Hewitt, all in like it seemed like the same day. Obviously, he's impressing upon them something that's easily digestible by more than one player. And it's, you know, number one, like Matt was saying, it's about him being able to have time to build his team while Sam Darnold's not getting killed, while his team is not getting laughed out of the building and losing all morale. But to the players' side, it's very easy to say, look, dude, we'll sign you for a year. Next year, your contract's gonna be worth twice as much. You know what I mean? So I think something to that effect went along. You know, that's what went down, and it benefited both sides. And like, look, honestly, I do think some of these guys, like a Poole, like a Burgess, like even Perriman. I'm really hoping Perriman, the rocky part of his career is over, and he's going to settle into who he really is, because he's an incredible receiver. Those types of guys get signed toward the end of the year and stick, and the rest will go. It's just that we're not locked into anybody except McGovern. It's amazing.
Oh, yeah. And even the McGovern deal I was looking at, you could hold on one second. Sorry, I'm responding to the chat.
The McGovern thing, is the only one of the contracts. I might be a little off. There might be one more. I'm pretty confident. McGovern is the only contract that we signed that he's actually locked into more than one deal. 1 year. Everybody else he can get out of.
I thought I saw a tweet today, and I'm going to see if I could find it because I could be wrong. I thought it was McGovern, but I think. Okay, yeah, no, he's locked in for more than 1 year. Yeah, he's basically locked in for 2 years. It's a 3-year contract, but I don't know who it was. One of the contracts, maybe it was Van Roden, who I believe signed a 3-year deal as well. We can get out of his deal in 1 year.
What was Van Roden's deal? Wasn't it like a 3-year, $14.5 million contract?
I think it was even less than that. I think it was like 10 million.
I think it was less.
Let me see if they've added it to.
I think they did.
Van Rotten.
Right? Long Island boy.
Yeah, he's Yeah, I got it right here. He's a 10.5 million 3-year deal. He's a $3.3 million cap hit this year. Guys, if you want to see this show in podcast form, I've kind of been kicking around the idea of doing it. I know I've talked to Matt a little bit about trying to get this up on podcast format. I don't know if it plays into it well, if like the video component doesn't necessarily translate to the audio component. But if you guys want to see it in podcast form, if you guys could comment on the video, not in the chat, but on like the comment section down below so I can kind of see it. I'm trying to get a rough idea of if we should even go that route. I'm going to open up the phone lines again. It looks like, you know what? I'm not going to open up again because we have 3 minutes left and we got to dip out of here at 10 o'clock. So let's look at the chat, see if there's anything going on that we particularly want to look at. Vertigo Flow says, do the podcast, bro. I drive an hour to work every day and all I have is turn on the Jets, shake my head. Andrew says, stick with YouTube. So it's interesting. Liam, I'm sorry you didn't get to call in. We'll wind up doing more call-ins in the future. We're talking about possibly doing a live stream panel for the Jets draft. The issue is going to be trying to sync up all our, reactions in terms of the proper times. Like, I don't want it to be where one of us is overly, one person sees the pick and then all of us are like, oh, what happens? Because that's
way too.
The chat will give it away. See, what's going to wind up happening with me is like I'll probably not look at the chat so much, and like as it starts getting closer to our pick, it's just like I'm just gonna not look at it. It's going to be an issue. I know ESPN is supposed to be streaming it. I don't have cable right now, so I could probably get my parents like cable or something like that to try and that would be interesting. I don't know. It's all the different service providers that you could potentially use too, because if you're going through like maybe not NFL Network, but like, some sort of NFL app, it could be different than the cable app versus different than the ESPN airing of it. And then if someone's listening to it, like maybe in headphones, like there's a lot of different issues. Eddie to Jesus says, no cable, steal it. I would love to. The issue with that is that the, like if you use game streams, like from Reddit or anything like that, the actual games are way behind. I've tried doing it on streams on here, and it is like brutal how far behind. It's like a minute behind. Everything on the everything in the chat's just blowing up as far as like things, and I'm just like, oh great, we got a touchdown. I don't see it for 3 more plays, so it's a little frustrating there. All right, we're at the end of our show right now, so we are going to start to call it a night. I'm going to kick it around the panel one more time to just kind of say our final thoughts. Green Bean, throw it to you first. Any last words for the guys out there?
Everybody's telling me to trim my beard, so I just decided to fluff it up for them.
Not happening. Don't get rid of it. You are the beard.
The beard is your trademark, man.
Yeah. I know, man. It's crazy town. It's quarantine bean. That's me.
Quarantine bean. I like it.
Yeah. So I think I want to remind everybody that Avery Williamson, the last year that they both had a full season, Avery Williamson's stats were actually better than C.J. Mosley's. You do not cut that.
Ooh, I like it. That is a great mic drop. He's out of here. David, what about you? Any last words for the panel?
Draft's coming up. It's going to be a very interesting few weeks. I can't wait to start talking more draft, finally get more in-depth, finally start doing some film study, and just kind of get some better insight on a lot of these prospects. It's just been raw opinions. Now it's some legitimate insight going forward. I kind of wanted to see it for this point. But Anyway, it's always fun coming on here talking some Jets, even with everything going on now. It's a great distraction. I love this show, and I love all the Jet fans on YouTube and the chat. You guys are the absolute best, and we wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for you guys.
Matt, any last words for the chat?
Yeah, so the chat did not like our Jamal Adams discussion, but I have 2 words for the chat. Positional value.
Yep. Yep. See, it's something we got to talk about.
Right.
Guys, I'm going to be releasing a video probably tomorrow afternoon. We're going to be comparing Van Roten against Brian Winters. So if you want to take a look at that, make sure you stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe to all these guys on the panel. All their links to their channels are in the description down below. We love you. We'll see you next week. JETS out of here.
It's Ryan. He keeps ruining it.